Good morning. Today we are continuing working with those percentages, and we are doing CO30. I can convert percentages and decimals. So yesterday we were working on converting those percentages and fractions, going back and forth. Now we're doing percentages and decimals, going back and forth. So, what is our magic number when it comes to percentages? Nolan, 100. So what decimal place do you think we're going to want to go to, Adeline? The 100th place for our decimals. Okay, so that 100 really is the magic number for all of these objectives. For our fractions, for our decimals, we need 100 on the bottom, going to the 100th place. So we're going to rewrite each percentage below as a fraction out of 100, and then we're going to turn it into a decimal. So when we had the percentages, we were doing it with the fractions and finding the percent out of our numerator. Now we're going to see how we do the same thing, but turn that numerator into our decimal. So the first one's been done for you. So 72% we know is 72 hundredths. And when we say 72 hundredths, that's how we say the fraction. We write the decimal to read the same thing. So this decimal, when we do it the mathy way, is not 0.72, it's 72 hundredths. Now, it is writing it right. It shows white up there. But, all right, so 72 hundredths, we go out to that 100th place. We do not simplify the fraction. We want to keep it over 100 so we can go to the 100th decimal place. So we don't simplify here. What do you think our next fraction would look like for 3%? Adeline? 3 over 100. So that is the same as saying 3 hundredths. So instead of saying 3 over 100, the proper math way to say it would be 3 hundredths. So we want our decimal to read 3 hundredths. What would that look like to have 3 hundredths as a decimal? Helen? Oh, I love that. Helen remembered that we need to go to that 100th place. So it's not 0.3, that would be read as 3/10. We want it to be 0.03, so it's 3 hundredths. So this is one that trips a lot of people up. They forget to put that 0 in. Our last digit of the numerator needs to be in that 100th place. So if there's not something in the 10th place, you fill it in with the 0. What would our next one look like for a fraction, James?
90 over 100.
90 over 100, which we read as 90 hundredths. And what does that decimal look like? Emma? 0.90 to read it as 90 hundredths. Now, I always have some friends that say, well, can we do 0.9? Do we have to put the 0 in the hundredths place? They are the same value. It means the same amount. So you could write 0.90, you could write 0.9. Both of them would be correct. So I'm okay with you writing it either way. A lot of us just like to say we always need something in that 100th place. We always need something in the 100th place, so let's fill it in with that 0 so we remember that 100th place is the magic place to be at. That's okay. So I'm okay either way. All right, 114%. What would that look like as a fraction, Maddie? 114 over 100. So we call that 114 hundredths. So how does that look as a decimal? What do you think, Helen? you are just rocking it today, Kellen. You are absolutely right. 1.14. Because what I said was that last digit on the numerator has to be in that hundredth place. And then we fill in the numbers before it. So if this is the hundredth place, this one goes in the tenths, this one goes in the ones. So we always put that last digit into the hundredth place and we fill in before it. So 114% is over 100%. So if it's over 100%, we're gonna have a number in the ones place because it's more than one whole. 150%, what would that fraction look like? Helen? Fraction first. 150 over 100, so we call that 150 hundredths. If it's 150 hundredths, what would our decimal look like? Lexi? 1.50, because that last number of our numerator needs to be in that hundredths place and we fill in before it. How are we feeling about this? Show me your thumbs. Is that an up or a sideways? All right. So, let me scroll up. Do you see how you can go directly from a percentage to a decimal? Looking at the first one, both 72% and 72 over 100 means 72 out of 100, which is the same as 72 hundredths. A second example, 59% literally means 59 out of 100, or 59 hundredths, or that 0.59. Third example, 110% literally means 110 out of 100. 110 is bigger, so we know we're going to have something in that ones place. There's going to be a whole number. So 110 hundredths would be 1 and 10 hundredths. So when we read that with the decimal, it's 1. That decimal we read as and 1 and 10 hundredths. So this section, we're gonna convert each percentage to a decimal. So let's do the first one together. What would my fraction look like? James? 33 over 100. So then what's my decimal going to look like? 0.33. That is my final answer, so I am circling it. James? So I'm looking at it, and it says convert each percentage to a decimal. It does not say show your work. I'm okay if we want to just, this is kind of easy to go right from that numerator, right from the percentage to the decimal. If you don't want to do the fraction, you don't have to do the fraction, because we can go directly from the percent to the decimal now that we understand how it works. Let's look at our second part. So put your pencils down for right now. I don't want you working on this, I want you hearing, so no speeding through it. Helen, put your pencil up. To go the other way from the decimal to the percentage, think of the place value of the decimal. Or, move the decimal to the right 2 places instead of the left. So, what do you think 0.22, what percent would that be? Bennett? Say it loud. 22%. 22%. Because we already have something in that hundredths place, we can go straight to the percentage. Well, look at our next one, 0.3. What percent would that be? Nolan? What is our magic place when it comes to decimals, Nolan? 100th place. Is there anything in the 100th place? So what do we have to do? If there's nothing where we need something, what do we put in its place? A 0. So you have to make sure that you are going to the hundredths place before we can convert it to the percentage. Now, Nolan, what percent would it be? 30%. This is a common mistake that people make. They say 0.3 is 3%, but it's not, because that 3 is in the tenths place. We want it to read hundredths. So we want it to say 30 hundredths, so we can go straight to 30%. So always, always, always make sure your decimal goes to the hundredth place. If there's nothing there, you fill it in with the 0, because 3% is very different than 30%. Okay? Make sure you fill in to the hundredth place. Let's look at this one. 1 56 hundredths. What percent would that be? Jack? 156, we're turning it into percents. So you're right, we could say 156 hundredths, and then to turn it into the percent, you have to have that percent sign, so I know it's a percentage. Percent sign always comes at the end. Every year I always have a couple of kids that throw the percent sign at the beginning, like a dollar sign. It's not where the percent sign goes. Percent sign always goes at the end. 156%. Any questions on going from decimals to percentages? Kelly? Good question. How would we read that as when we read that decimal? What's the proper math way to say it? 5 hundredths, because that 5 is in the hundredths place. So if it's 5 hundredths, what percent would it be? Say what? No, it's 5 hundredths. How do I say that's a percent? If this was 22 hundredths and it's 22%, 30 hundredths is 30%, 5 hundredths would be 5%. So always look at how you read it as the hundredths and then make it a percent. Bennett. What's my magic number? Am I going to the hundredths place at 1.3? Remember, with our decimals, we've got the ones, the decimal, the tenths, and the hundredths. What did I say? We always have to put our decimals out to, Bennett. The hundredths. So I should see 2 decimal places always, always, always when we're going from decimals to percentages. So if there's nothing there, what do I do, Bennett? Fill it in with a 0. So now looking at that, Bennett, does it look like 13%? No, because it's a very different number. If we have one whole, it's not going to be 13%. It's going to be way bigger. Always, always, always fill in that hundredths place. 100 is our magic number. Make sure you're using it. Any other questions? You guys have great questions today. Any others? Okay, this is a 1-pager. So I'm not overcomplicated today. It was time for us to have a little bit of an easier one. So those of us that did not finish yesterday's, I expect you, when you're done with today's page, to go back to yesterday's. Make sure you know it. Some of us were absent. You can watch the video on my YouTube channel. Then math packet. Math packet is due December 17th. Not making the video yet because I want you to try to work it out yourself a little bit more. So try to figure it out. I gave us the volume of a cylinder. Remember, that volume of the cylinder was pi r squared times h. So if you didn't write the volume of the cylinder on yours, volume of the cylinder remember, is pi r squared times h. So r is that radius going from the middle of the circle to the outside. You need to square that. That's the first thing you do in PERMDAS. You do your exponents. So you would find what r is, you would square it, then multiply it by that pi button on your calculator, or you could put in 3.14. Either way is going to get us the answer, and then multiply it by the height. Okay, so if you are watching this at home, you are going, I hope you are well, and I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day. If I can find the button there, that's